All right, good afternoon. Hopping on here on Facebook Live. Going to give you the 1 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Um, what we've got going on as we continue to track Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura. Kind of crazy setup going on out there. And of course, got to get the graphics up here. There we go. All right, so what we're dealing with right now, you can see there's Tropical Storm Marco down in the Caribbean. We've got sustained winds still at 65 miles per hour, gusting to 75, and it is much more organized this morning than what we were dealing with last night, of course. Now, as it continues to move towards the northwest and west-northwest, or northwest, we'll have to watch this pretty closely. Now, here is why. We're watching this system become pretty organized pretty quickly because it is a fairly small vortex, right? And whenever you have a small system like this, they ramp up and they weaken pretty quickly. Now, that's exactly what this has done today. And you can zoom in and show you the satellite here, and you can see got some nice banding features coming in, and that just means that it is organizing quite well this afternoon. Now, by this evening, we do have it forecasted to become a hurricane. This will become Hurricane Marco, and that would be, of course, entering the Gulf of Mexico, and then by Sunday morning, still strengthening as it's in the Gulf of Mexico, and then continuing its track towards the northwest. Now, what we'll be watching very closely with this is what does the storm look when it gets to this point? If it's a stronger storm than what we indicate here, this track would likely change a little bit further towards the east. Now, if it maintains this intensity, you notice they have it kind of making this westerly track by Monday. That's as it's weakening. So you can see here by Monday, possibly a hurricane off the coast of Louisiana, kind of making that west-northwest turn and then heading towards Texas landfall late Tuesday going into Wednesday is what it looks like at this point. But this is subject to change. We could certainly see a stronger storm, meaning a more kind of easterly, northerly track. It could be a little bit weaker. Maybe it weakens quicker and it tries to shoot west a little faster. So that's just what we'll be watching as we go throughout the next couple of days. Now let's get the or Laura rather. Laura is sitting just to the southeast of Puerto Rico, and you can see there's quite a bit of thunderstorm development with it. That just signs that it's trying to organize. Winds are up to 50 miles per hour. It is heading west still pretty quickly at 18 miles per hour. Now the track takes it right over the islands, which means that it took this track, it wouldn't strengthen all that much. Now it would continue to move over the islands, and you wouldn't see a heck of a lot of strengthening with it not being over the warm waters and interfering with the land. Now, as we get into Monday night, it looks like it'll start to enter the Gulf of Mexico, and this is when we expect it to strengthen more. Now, the environment that's going to be the Gulf of Mexico, we've got the warm waters. It looks like we'll have relatively low shear and not a whole lot of dry air in the central and eastern Gulf, which is a recipe, of course, for a strengthening system. So there's no reason to believe this won't try to strengthen once it does get into the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see they're up to a Category 1 by Tuesday morning here, by Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. here just off the coast, and then making that northwest turn up toward the north by landfall would be sometime on Wednesday. There's still a lot of uncertainty with the exact track, of course. The cone's still pretty big because it's so far out. You've got from Houston to Mobile still within the realm of possibilities of seeing direct landfalls from Tropical Storm Laura. So we need to follow Laura and Marco pretty close across the area. Now, I've talking about this graphic earlier and how interesting it is because you've got two cones that basically the center of the cones both cross paths at some point. However, they don't cross at the same time. So as you look at I kind of zoomed in here and I painted the tropical tracks a different color so you can see um, kind of the difference in the timing of the two systems. And notice Marco is going to be moving in sooner than Laura. So Marco's impacts will be felt late Sunday throughout Monday for much of the area. And there it is as a Category 1 storm off the coast. But notice Laura, this is Wednesday morning somewhere in the same vicinity. So just showing you how um, honestly crazy it is that we could have two hurricanes within less than 48 hours in the same position off the coast of Louisiana. So that's why that track looks so weird, but they're not actually crossing paths at the same time. It's about a 48-hour difference between the two storms. So impacts could start late Sunday and last all the way through Wednesday, depending on what storm you're talking about. There'll likely be some breaks in there, of course, but um, it could be a pretty prolonged event. Let's talk about these scenarios though, because there are still a few scenarios that could play out with each of the storms, and the forecast is certainly not set in stone at this point. So this is the current forecast for Marco. This is the center of the cone from the National Hurricane Center. Notice rainfall looks like a pretty good guarantee with Marco as we go late Sunday throughout Monday into Tuesday here in southeast Louisiana. As you go with this track, the coastal flooding threat would be relatively low. We would see some surge, but it might not be that major. Winds wouldn't be a major issue with this track, and tornado threat would actually be a bit elevated. Now, it's possible if we have a stronger Marco, if Marco remains stronger than we anticipate, we could see this storm take a different track. That is in the possibilities, and that's why we need to follow this because you're looking at a storm getting close to the Gulf by Monday. It is Saturday, right? So we need to follow and see how this evolves over the next 24 hours. And if it moves more of this northerly track, our impacts would obviously go up. Now, there's no guarantee this happens, but it's one of the scenarios that we need to watch for. Our rainfall rates, our rainfall amounts would be pretty high. Our surge would go up with a landfalling hurricane in the area. And of course, our winds would be higher as well. Now, here's best case scenario for South Louisiana with the track of Marco. Without a doubt, it looks like we're going to get rain from Marco no matter what track it takes. But if it takes that further south track along the cone, you're looking at less coastal flooding, storm surge. You're looking at lower winds, and the tornado threat, it actually would be a little bit higher. It would be about a medium to high because you're on the outer bands. So we would be watching. This is the best case scenario for Marco, but it's still a little, iffy to say which one will be the actual track. That's Marco. Here's Laura. Laura. So the scenarios with Laura are similar to the fact of, where it goes matters. So this is the current forecast, center of the cone, right up through South Louisiana. That means all of Southeast Louisiana is on the east side of the storm. You're looking at high rainfall impacts. Storm surge would be an issue. Winds would be an issue. That's with the current forecast. Now, there is still a very good possibility this does not take this forecast, and we would be surprised if this forecast didn't change a little bit, right? So if it takes more of the westerly track, we're talking closer to Houston, maybe Lake Charles, Beaumont, we're looking at rainfall still being an issue, of course, but the coastal flooding, the wind threat, the tornado threat would drop down a little bit if it goes closer to Houston. Best case scenario for this system would be for it to take a more northerly, easterly track on the east side of the cone. That would put South Mississippi and really southeast Louisiana, New Orleans, Baton Rouge on the west side of the storm, the drier side. We would still likely see some rainfall, but the coastal flooding threat would drop dramatically, except for maybe on the north or south shore, right there along the lakefront. And then the winds, excuse me, would not be as big of an issue, but we could still have some gusty winds with that track as well. So that's the best case scenario for Laura. The one thing that seems certain at this point is the rainfall potential, and this is what we're most confident in. You'll hear us talk about it the most because this is what we're most confident in. We're talking about maybe over 5, 7 inches. It depends on the track and things like that, of course, but a general estimate is heavy rainfall certainly possible starting Sunday, late Sunday, going all the way maybe through Thursday. Depends on how quick Laura gets out of here. But really, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think would be our heaviest rain days across the area. Winds could also be an issue. If you've got two hurricanes right off the coast, we're not just talking about, rainfall problems. We're talking about wind problems now, storm surge. So here's a rough estimate on who has the best shot at seeing tropical storm force winds. Notice as you go into the coastal areas, that's going to be your best shot. Port Fourchon, Grand Isle, down along the mouth of the river, lower Terrebonne, lower Lafourche. Places like that have your best shot at seeing the strongest winds. Here's the timeline on those winds, if I can get it to work. Your timeline on the winds, if I really want to show you Marco's winds, let me get into this so I can show you. All right. So the timeline for the tropical storm force winds for Marco will come sooner than Laura, obviously. So we put this in motion here. You can see we could start to see some of those tropical storm force winds maybe by Monday morning, early Monday morning along the coast. So preparations will need to be done by tomorrow for the coastal areas because you could start to see some stronger winds as we go into Monday. Now, you're looking at Laura being about 48 hours delayed, maybe 36 hours or so, with those tropical storm force winds moving in late Tuesday night into early Wednesday with Laura. So there'll be not a whole lot of break in between the two systems. So that's why preparations need to be made now, today and Sunday, because you might not have really that time in between two systems to do much if you need to do any preparations. So there's a lot going on with this forecast. There's a lot of steering mechanisms we'll be watching. The two main ones we'll be watching, of course, the Bermuda High. That's what's steering Laura to the west. And we have this trough that's digging down over the Gulf of Mexico. That's what's pulling Marco to the north. That's what's pulling all this moisture to the north. So in the browns here, you have dry air. The greens and that blue, that is deep tropical moisture. So I'll put this in motion here. You can see as we go into Sunday, tomorrow into Monday, there's Marco heading towards the coast. This trough lifts out. This ridge starts to build in, which is going to start to nudge Marco further towards the northwest. That's why we think it's going to make that turn if it starts to weaken. If it remains stronger, it will try to fight this ridge a little more, and it'll be more prone to go a little further to the north. So that's why we need to watch the intensity of Marco very closely. Notice Laura heading right along the edge of that high pressure, that Bermuda high. There it is, just coming into the Florida Straits and kind of the extreme southwestern or eastern portions of the Gulf of Mexico by Monday, late Monday. And then as we go into Tuesday, there's Laura. Marco is pretty much gone up. It's producing rain, but it's weakening. And then there's Laura heading towards the Gulf Coast. By Wednesday, somewhere from Houston to Mobile, making landfall potentially as a hurricane. So we'll be watching that. And then you've got moisture still feeding through the area on Thursday. Here's your forecast before I leave you. Best time to prepare is going to be today, Saturday. Tomorrow shouldn't be too bad, especially earlier in the day. Late Sunday, rain bands will start to move in depending on how close Marco gets, how strong it is. We could see tropical storm force conditions by Monday here in southeast Louisiana, especially along the coast. Rounds of rainfall possible, maybe some storm surge, just depends on the track and intensity of Marco. By Tuesday, our attention will then turn to Laura. Late Tuesday going into Wednesday, we'll start to feel the effects of Laura. And then Laura will make landfall on Wednesday somewhere on the Gulf Coast. It could be here as a hurricane. It could be towards Houston as a hurricane. Regardless, it looks like we're going to see some heavy rainfall from both of these systems. So that is your 1 p.m. update. Of course, it is not a full update, but it's more of an intermediate is what they call it because you don't see a track change. But at 4 p.m., they will update these tracks. So it'll be interesting to see what they think about Marco. I think that's what we need to watch the most right now is Marco because you got a Gulf, a storm moving into the Gulf, warm waters. It's already up, overperforming, I should say, with the models, and it's stronger than what we anticipated. So we need to watch it closely. Preparations today, no need to panic about this just yet, but we need to watch these because it's late August and you've got two storms potentially in the Gulf, and that's just, you know, how it is this time of year. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Alexandra Cranford will have your 4 p.m. update. I believe she'll be on Channel 4 as well, and hopefully right here on Facebook as well. Thanks everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.